It's about time I had a podcast. Hello and welcome to the inaugural issue of Larry Flynn's All Ball podcast. And as the title suggests, I'm your host, Larry Flynn. One thing you'll want to know about me before we begin. I don't call fouls in pickup, so hence the name All Ball. Since I probably didn't foul you on that block, it was probably just All Ball. The other reason for the All Ball name, I'll be talking strictly sports on this podcast, probably 99.9% basketball. But here's a little secret. Rarely are the best sports stories only about the game. Often the best of the best are the human stories, the stories about narratives, the stories about what happens on the court and how that reveals something more meaningful and more profound about our society, about human nature, whatever. On this podcast, I'll often go out of bounds, going beyond the concrete details of the game to tackle larger issues. And of course, I'll have guests on the show to talk with me. Here's the agenda for this show. I'll give a quick introduction about myself, then I'll talk about two main topics, the uniqueness of OKC and an ode to their run, and what should be a finals for the ages between the Warriors and the Cavs. So, your first question, because I know you were wondering, what makes me qualified to talk about basketball? For my entire life, I've known two things better than anything else in the world, and that's basketball and writing. I remember playing knockout basketball with Ryan Gomes, a Celtic at the time, meeting Al Jefferson in Walmart, Kenneth Perkins in the National New Hampshire Mall, and meeting a plethora of other wonderful basketball players, going to different Celtics games, Villanova basketball games, etc. I played on AAU teams with Trailblazers forward Noah Vonleh, Creighton transfer and former Syracuse Orange Caleb Joseph, and against guys like Michael Carter-Williams, Nerlens Noel, who, just as a secret, was pretty overrated in high school, and Wayne Selden. But my love for basketball has never been just about meeting and playing with successful basketball players. More so, it's been about telling stories. It's about relationships. It's about values. Thankfully, I've been blessed with a storyteller's mentality and have been educated in the precision and the beauty of writing so that I can convey some of these sports stories through my writing. But that might not fully answer your question to my qualifications, so here's a quick rundown of the most significant bullets on my resume. I've served 2 years as the sports editor of the Villanovan, the student-run newspaper where I, and the men's basketball national champions, most importantly, go to school. There I'm an honors English major with a minor in creative writing and rhetoric. I also served as a Villanova campus correspondent for Sports Illustrated's CampusRush.com, and, speaking of SI, I'll be interning at their headquarters in New York City this upcoming fall semester. I am excited. I've also made guest appearances on CBS Sports Radio, written freelance articles for the Merrimack Valley Magazine in the greater Boston area, and written for VU Hoops, the SBNation.com Villanova basketball website. So I know a thing or two about basketball, I think. Now, enough about me, because today is June 1st, which means that the warmth of spring around America is slowly subsiding into the scorching heat of summer. And as you know, basketball fan, the hotter it gets, the more meaningful the NBA basketball that is being played, because tomorrow is the NBA Finals. The Golden State Warriors, fresh off a 73-win season, the best in NBA history, and a 7-game epic with the Oklahoma City Thunder, are the obvious favorites in this one. They have the unanimous MVP, do-it-all Draymond, and maybe most importantly, the newly minted superstar Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is one of the most interesting players in this series, simply because of his production thus far these playoffs, and, more importantly, what it means for his team when he performs well. So they say shooters are streaky, right? I would know all about that. Well, Klay is a shooter, and boy is he streaky. Let's take a look at some of his game-by-game production throughout the playoffs and see how it corresponds with his team's play. Well, Klay's two lowest scoring outputs in the playoffs were both in Warriors wins, and while his 35-point performance against the Blazers in Game 3 resulted in a loss, the Warriors seem to come and go as Klay himself comes and goes. In the 12 games that the Warriors have won thus far this season, Klay Thompson has played 36 minutes, not too much different than the 34 and the 5 losses for the Golden State Warriors thus far these playoffs. But there's a couple other interesting parallels for Klay Thompson in Warriors wins versus in Warriors losses. The first of which is the three-pointers made and three-pointers attempted. In losses, Klay Thompson is significantly less efficient from beyond the arc, shooting 33% from the field, hitting about 1 of every 3 shots. But in wins, Klay Thompson hits about 1 of every 2 shots, shooting 49% from the three-point arc, which is prolific. In the wins, though, I think it's important to note that Klay Thompson attempts 2.4 more three-pointers. Basically, he's looking for a shot from behind the arc and wins. And when he's looking for a shot, he's a little more assertive, so the efficiency comes along with his improved aggressiveness, shooting the ball from beyond the arc. He also gets to the line more and wins. That's not really too much of a shocker, and shoots better from the free throw line. But he even averages one more assist and wins. He seems overall to be more aggressive in the wins than he does in the losses. And the result? Well, a win for the Warriors. So what this shows is that Thompson is not only more efficient in Warriors wins, but that he is also more aggressive from beyond the arc in Warriors wins. Now, let's do a little throwback session here. Rewind the tape back to June of 2015, where Klay put on an abysmal performance in the Warriors' 2015 NBA Finals championship. Although the Warriors won 4 of the 6 games, Klay Thompson averaged only 15.8 points per game. Not good for someone who's considered a star. He scored 5 points in the final Warriors win, shooting 29% from the field. He shot 40% from the field, including 9 points in another win for the Warriors. In one of the only 2 losses that the Warriors had against the Cavs, Klay Thompson scored 34 points, which was 13 better than any other point production he had in last year's finals. The point being, it didn't really matter last year whether Klay Thompson played well or played poorly. The Warriors kind of came and went to their own beat, or maybe to Steph Curry's beat. But nevertheless, Klay Thompson now, in these playoffs, is an integral part of the Warriors' performance. So Klay can't replicate last year's finals performance against this year's Cavs. No way. These Cavs have a healthy Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. They're a year older, and they've added a very nice piece in Channing Frye. Oh yeah, and they have that guy, James, something like that. So Thompson has to be the superstar that he was against the Thunder. Klay was undeniably a superstar in the Western Conference Finals. His 41-point performance in Game 6, in which he made 11 of 18 three-pointers, showed that if there was any question, Klay isn't just an all-star, but a superstar who is able to put the greatest team in NBA history on his back and say, "Follow me, let's go." So think about it. Who would you rather have on your team? Klay Thompson or James Harden? Klay Thompson or Jimmy Butler? Klay Thompson or, gasp, Russell Westbrook? This might be a close debate, but Thompson's performance in the playoffs this year illustrates that he is absolutely amongst or above, rather than below, that elite tier of NBA players. But Klay could throw it all away these finals and average less than 20 points per game again. He could become known for failing to showing up in the finals and when his team needs him the most. He could be known as one of the key cogs of the Warriors machine, which fell apart at the hands of LeBron James' greatness. Or Klay could become known as a superstar, not just another splash brother. While Klay is one of the keys for the Warriors, the Cavs have their fair share of X factors. Take Channing Frye, for example, a mid-season acquisition who saw peaks and dips in his minutes throughout the regular season. In the playoffs, however, where the Cavs have annihilated opponents by a league-high 12.6 points per game, Frye has seen an increase in minutes as the Cavs' identity has shifted from the boring, methodical, plodding team they were in last year's finals into an offensive juggernaut, averaging almost 107 points per game. Frye's floor spacing abilities are well documented. His scorching 80% effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage are the best of any rotation player on the Cavs in these playoffs. While Frye can help space the floor, he's not known for his defensive prowess. He's mediocre, at best. And the stats, such as his 98 defensive rating, a low amongst Cavs rotation players, back it up. Against Toronto, the Cavs trotted out a highly effective lineup featuring 3 players out of the combination of Kyrie Irving, Dellavedova, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, and Richard Jefferson to play alongside LeBron and Frye. This lineup went on a brief run against the Raptors in Game 4, but as the game tightened up, the Raptors took advantage of the lack of size from the Cavaliers, and the Cavs gave up 3 critical offensive rebounds down the stretch, mostly at the fault of Channing Frye. And if they couldn't get away with it against Toronto, they can't get away with it against the Warriors. So can the Warriors exploit the slow-footed Frye and minimize his impact on the offensive end? If there's any versatile team that can do it, it's the Warriors. So does Ty Lue resurrect the ghost of Timofey Mozgov, who had a few solid performances in last year's finals, in order to replicate the Thunder's go big model of success against the Warriors? Or does he stick to his own script? Or is it all just a lost cause, really, because the Warriors are unbeatable, even when they seem utterly defeated, as they did against Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals? I'll go with the latter. Warriors in 7. I just mentioned the Thunder a minute ago, and I'd like to give them a quick shout out for playing an amazing series and giving the Warriors a run that no one thought was possible. Not even myself. I had the Warriors winning in 5 games. The Thunder were particularly interesting, however, throughout these playoffs because they tried a different approach to beating the Warriors. Instead of matching the, quote, death lineup's smaller stature, they employed a very, very large, long, and aggressive team. Steven Adams, a burly 7-footer. Serge Ibaka, ridiculous wingspan and shot blocking ability. Kevin Durant, a 7-footer even if he tries to pretend he's 6'9". Andre Roberson, a power forward in college. Russell Westbrook, the most athletic point guard in the league. I don't think I'd be able to even get a shot off in a casual pickup game against that lineup. How interesting. The Thunder redefined versatility. In the modern NBA, everyone thinks of versatility and thinks of Draymond Green. And rightfully so, to one extent. As Bob Myers said, quote, we used to say tweener, now we say versatile. Unique players who are able to play multiple positions, like Draymond himself, or Sean Livingston, or Harrison Barnes, or Andre Iguodala. Versatile, yes, but also all under 6'8". Conversely, the Thunder's starting shooting guard is 6'7". That's Andre Roberson, the same size as Draymond Green, who often plays center for the Warriors. And Russell Westbrook is a big 6'3". And their entire front court is over 7 feet. But the Thunder are versatile players. Ibaka shoots threes. Adam is a better passer than most players his size. Roberson can do just about everything on the court, except shooting threes. And need I begin talking about Russ and KD's versatility? The Thunder's primary versatility, however, is on the defensive end, not the offensive end, where switches amongst players aren't such a big deal, unless if it's seen as Cantor, but that's beside the point. We saw this most clearly against the Spurs, where Adams switching onto a player like Tony Parker isn't really that big of a deal, since Parker is slowly losing the speed which once made him an all-star. The Thunder's only lost this season because the Warriors are unhuman, unfair, and unreal. Not because an alternative conception of versatility was conceptually flawed. So congrats, Thunder, for helping us think of the game a little differently. We could all use it. A few quick notes. While we're talking about the Thunder, KD addressed the press yesterday to talk about his free agency plans. Here's some quotes from ESPN reporter Royce Young. Here's the first one from Kevin Durant regarding Oklahoma City. It's home. I've been here for 8 years. Time has flown by, and time flies when you're having fun. Gotta love that quote, right? Kevin Durant, one of the nicest guys in the league, a guy who is fiercely loyal, who has adopted Oklahoma City as his hometown. Now here's another quote. Kevin Durant talking about the whole recruiting tours and wanting to be recruited by all 30 teams in the association. He says, that's not who I am. I'm not that type of person. And this is why he's one of my favorite superstars. No flair, no glitter, none of that stuff Dwight Howard pulled a few years ago, none of that DeAndre Jordan nonsense. Durant is just a loyal dude. As simple as that. He might sign a 1-year deal this offseason, but it's to have an emergency opt-out if Westbrook decides to leave next year. After all, Kevin Durant wouldn't want to be left with just a dwindling roster of Roberson, Cantor, Waiters, Ibaka, and Adams. But the way it's looking now, I'd bet money, and plenty of it, that KD will spend the next 5+ years in Oklahoma City alongside Russell Westbrook. And one quick note before I call it quits. I didn't talk any Villanova basketball during the show, but I undoubtedly will going forward. Even though it's the offseason, there's plenty to talk about. And I feel that I know Villanova basketball the best out of any team or sport that I possibly could follow. Villanova basketball obviously just won the national championship. I'll tell you a little bit about my experience down there, maybe even read a little excerpt. We can do some story time. And, of course, next year, there's a chance that we go back-to-back. So, I'll talk about the chances that Villanova has to execute a very, very rare collegiate back-to-back championships. And also the kind of impact that Josh Hart could make, and the kind of players who will have to step up. Guys like Phil Booth, Jalen Brunson, and some pretty fantastic freshmen that are on the way. I'll also be talking about the Celtics, my hometown NBA team. I'll do that often as we gear up for the draft. There's plenty to talk about, plenty of speculation of who the Celtics should take at 3. I'm pretty opinionated and pretty fierce when it comes to the Celtics because they're a team that I care about. So forgive me if I share unpopular opinions. And that's the show. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think on my Facebook page or on my Twitter feed. That's at @LFlynn_NBA Nova. Or you can comment in the comment section here. I am always open to debate and discussion. So enjoy the game tonight. I'm assuming everyone is picking the Warriors in Game 1, right? Good. That's what I thought. Take care.